And we have speed. Welcome to the Professor Cardworthy YouTube channel, where we endeavor to explain all things financial. I have 30 years of experience, so I know a little stuff, and I want to share that with you. Today's lesson is Savings King Secrets. Now, unlike the rest of the world, Europe, Asia, savings rates in the United States are not that great. But let me tell you about my son-in-law. Now, he's lived through the Great Recession that most of us have gone through. And when I told him, we were talking about money planning, and I said to him, really today the conventional wisdom is that you should have 6 months of salary put away as a safety net in case you lose your job, a lesson that many people learned in the Great Recession. His response? He laughed in my face. On the other hand, my father-in-law, who went through the Great Depression, he became a habitual saver. And the thing is, the difference between the two, with my son-in-law, for example, let me get my little pointer out here. How he does save, but in very indirect ways. I mean, he does not have 6 months worth of salary, and again, most people would laugh at that notion, although that is the conventional wisdom by the financial planners. But anyway, my son-in-law, how do they save money? Well, they have 5 children, so they spend a lot on groceries. They take advantage of coupons and BOGOs and anything they can do to lessen their food costs. So they are, in fact, doing savings in that way. When they need money, of course, they rely on credit cards like most Americans. And if necessary, they tap into their home equity, or the 401k would be a last resort. So that's how some young, struggling families do today, especially if they have a big family. Let's go to my father-in-law, old school Great Depression. He had a lot of interesting ways to save that still are applicable today. Now, he did not have a fondness for banks. In fact, for many years he hated banks because of the Great Depression. But he did things like savings. Okay, for example, he would save dimes. He literally saved every dime he ever had. He would take dimes even if you were visiting his house and you had loose change. Well, he would take your dimes and exchange it. He saved dimes. They're the smallest coin. And of course, he had many silver dimes too, which are quite valuable. So believe me, when he finally passed at 97, he had enough dimes for everybody, not only in the town, but probably the county and beyond. He also used a very interesting method that sounds primitive, but it is actually used by many consumers today to save, and that is the envelope method, where you simply take your money for your different bills and you put it in envelopes. In his case, since he didn't like banks, he would go and cash his paycheck or later his retirement checks. He would get the cash from the bank. He would go home and divvy it out into all those envelopes for the various bills. And he would generously put in, usually more, of course, than what the bill would probably be. And so that worked out very well for him. So he was always, ahead of his bills. The money was there. It was just a matter of pulling it out of the envelope and go settling it up. Most bills he would either go to the bank and pay in cash, or he would actually go to the utility company and pay the bill. But that worked out very well. Now, of course, some months he would be a little over and under, so he would shift the money around. If the electric bill was up, well, then he could shift some money out of the phone bill or another bill that he had. And then what he would do if he had extra from all that for the month, he would put it in a little slush fund for his wife. And that accumulated quite well, but it was her sort of impulse shopping money. So she always could buy the pair of shoes that she liked. She loved to shop for shoes. But that was in effect an indirect savings account for her. But he still saved. He saved every time. And coupons, yes, he would walk a dime, or if he could save a dime on a bag of potatoes, he would walk blocks to get it. He wouldn't drive the car, but he would go out of his way to save a dime on potatoes. And in the area that he lived, there were about 5 or 6 bars that you could go to. Well, the draft beer was generally 25 cents. Well, if somebody raised it to 30 cents, they lost all their customers. He would walk a couple of blocks to save a nickel. The other interesting thing he did is he had savings bonds, which were automatically deducted from his paycheck when he was working, and he religiously bought savings bonds. Now, they're not so popular today, and they're very different, but he would actually get a physical savings bond and do it that way. And in fact, when I married his daughter, he bought her a brand new car, 1971 Mercury Comet, for $2,000. Actually, it was a little less than $2,000. And the way she paid him back was she got an automatic deduction out of her paycheck in the form of a savings bond, which was in his name. And that's how he repaid. And he would do that quite often with family members. If they owed him money, pay me back in savings bonds. And of course, he had quite a stack of them. So that's, old school methods. I mean, where you're doing things of that nature. Now, and believe me, he saved up until the day that he passed. It was a lifelong thing for him to save. Anyway, what about today? Let me slide my little board over here. Hope you can see there's a couple of, tips. Today things are a little more sophisticated. Today we have apps. There's all kinds of apps in the marketplace that can help you to save in many ways. For example, it could be even your bank account or using a debit card, credit card. You could do Roundup, where it takes the loose dollar amount. You buy something for $9.81, it rounds it up to $10 and puts that difference into a savings account. And it's automatic, out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. And it like a piggy bank, and it can accumulate. There's so many spending apps where you can get codes. If you're shopping online, there's no reason to pay full price anymore. You can usually get a code of some type that can be applied. And not only in online shopping, of course, and physical shopping, which is something my daughter was very big on. And she knows all the ins and outs and where she can stack coupons and almost sometimes get things for free. But there's a lot of spending apps, and then some of these apps will allow you to track your spending, so you really get a real good idea of where the money's gone. You wonder why you can't pay your bill. And you can set it up for notifications, all kinds of things that you can do to remind you to save. And there's a few tips that we can offer. I hope you can see those. There's 5 of them. One is, think of savings as a life goal, not just something to get by. Now, as you probably have heard, it's something like 70–80% of the households in the United States can't come up with $400 or $500 in emergency savings. What used to be the proverbial cookie jar just doesn't exist in a lot of houses today because things are tight. People getting by paycheck to paycheck. So you still should have that. I mean, emergency savings and keeping that cookie jar full, because you never know when you may need to call on it. But also, think of it as a life goal. Think of it like my father-in-law. Make it a habit. At the same time, be realistic. You can't take money out of your pay and say, well, this is what I'm saving and everything else is for the bills. And you're going to come up short. And that's going to become frustrating, and you're going to end up not saving when it should be at the tail end. And when you get to the tail end of your bills, yes, you may have money that you can save. And you can do that by just evaluating things. Like, for example, it's very common today to sign up for a service and get a subscription that's automatically billed to your credit card. And some of those services, they're only a few dollars a month, but you may not. I have several of them where they were music apps, and I went on to another music app and forgot about the other one and still had it and still was paying for it. So you might want to evaluate those automatic payments that are coming out for services that you no longer use. You can also automate savings. Like my my wife, what she did was, like with my father-in-law, she had automatic deductions from her paycheck that went to savings. Not only for the savings bond that she used to pay my father-in-law back for the loan, but also she would have $10 taken out for a credit union savings account. So you can do that. There's a lot of automated type savings that you can set up. I mean, obviously 401ks, all that employers offer today, give you that automatic thing where, again, it's just like taking taxes out. It's not part of the monthly budget, so to speak. And then the last thing is, how about just saving with friends? You can, as a group, come together. You might have friends. I mean, sometimes people, like with Weight Watcher programs and then points and so on, they work together towards a common goal. Well, you might be able to find friends, other families, for example, who are in the same kind of struggle, trying to save. And you can give each other ideas. It's a real good thing. And set group goals and so on. They're all really good ideas. And we're going to be talking about savings in a lot of lessons going forward. But the whole point of today's lesson is, whether it's old school or it's new school, just simply save and try to do a better job of that. Well, are you card worthy? Well, if you are, that's a beautiful thing. If you're not, keep coming back. We're going to have lessons all the time here on all these financial subjects, and we'll endeavor to get you up to the level where you can be truly card worthy. Now, for more on today's lesson, you certainly can go to the blog, Professor Cardworthy's Corner, which is at cardworthy.com. And of course, we also have the YouTube, besides the YouTube channel that you're watching, we have podcasts, which are just about on all the networks right now. But between those two resources, you should be able, there's a lot of information already to draw from. We've only been up and running for a few weeks. But anyway, that's been nice for you to take the time out, and hopefully you learned something and maybe even put a little smile on your face. So have a great day and keep charging. No, keep saving ahead. I'm Professor Cardworthy.